Let's see, we get through this here. So we're still basically not going to waste much time. We're just going to go right to it. We were in the Subtool Master, and we were going through these different options here. We went through merge already. We went through visible or fill subtools, which fills it with a color or the material or both for multiple subtools. This will invert the visibility of all subtools. So if we click this, if we invert the visibility, it will take any subtool that's not visible, and basically make it visible. So if we invert it again, it's going to give us pretty much what we had before. So anything not visible becomes visible. Anything visible becomes not visible. Hopefully that makes sense. That's what that does. Delete invisible subtools. This can be handy when you have, if you just turn the tool off and you don't need it anymore, you can go ahead and click that delete button. I'm not going to do it because it's going to delete it for me, but delete invisible subtools. As long as it doesn't have the eye on it, you can delete them all. And this comes in really handy when you're dealing with a lot of subtools. Really fast way of working. So this will set any subtool that's visible right now, meaning anything that has that eye on it, the eye on it here, to the lowest sub level. So the lowest level of geometry that it can go to that you've created for it. So if I click low res visibility, it'll basically run through everything and it'll set it to the lowest visibility for the subtool. I think this one doesn't have any layers on it. Oh no, it does. Okay, so this is layer 1. Okay, and this is layer 3. Okay. But yeah, if we go through all the subtools, this one didn't have a layer on it. This one didn't have I can reconstruct though. I think it contains triangles, so it can't reconstruct. But basically, if you reconstruct it, let me see. If we get rid of triangles, okay. Well, this doesn't have the. Oh man, what happened there? Probably because I tried to mess with the mesh. We'll just keep that. I don't want to mess it up. But you could see, like on these horns, it went to the lowest level there is, which was sub level 1. If I press D, it'll go back up to sub level 3. It did the same with the eyes. It went to the lowest level with the eyes. Probably hard to see, but so that's all that does. It just brings everything down to the lowest level. And of course, you have high res, so anything that's visible, you just click high res. So you're probably wondering, when you would use something like that. And basically, when you would use something like that is if you're using ZBrush and you have a lot of tools and they're at the highest resolution and there's like millions of polygons and it's chugging. It's like really chugging on you. It's lagging. It's not working too well. So that would be a scenario where you would bring them all down to their lowest sub level and then work on whatever you need to. Trying to see if I can. Oh, we don't have any for that. Okay. All right. So let's just move along here. Whoops. Let's close this back out. We were going through that. Scale offset. Set scale offset to 110 for all subtools. I honestly don't use this method, but let's see. Well, we could try it and see what happens. Scale offset. I'm really not even sure when you would use something like that, to be honest. I have to look into it. So it offsets the scale. The grid's all the way at the bottom down there. That's pretty much what it does. Apply selected option to visible subtool. Okay. So if we click do visible, you can see we have a couple options in here. Does it just do it to the one? To visible subtools, right? So any visible subtools, multiple subtools, it'll apply this action to. You can subdivide all of them. So I mean, if you have 100 subtools and you want to subdivide them all, you could just click this, subdivide one time or something. Reconstruct subdivision, all possible levels. This can come in handy when you are working on a high-res mesh, but you want to get to a lower level, but there is no lower level. You can do the reconstruct subdiv levels. Then it'll do its best to try to go back down to a lower level to make it easier to edit. Correct duplicate subtool names. This just takes any subtool that has a duplicate name that could be confusing and renames it. Create new layer at subdivision level. I think create new layer will literally do it just to create a new. I don't know if it's a subtool layer. Let me just test this out because I'm curious. What kind of layer it's trying to do. It might be doing this layer. Yeah, it created a new layer in here, which we went over in a previous lesson, but it created a new layer, a new sculpting layer. So any changes I make inside this layer, will only affect this layer. So I'm just going to get rid of that because I don't need that. So that's what that does. Let's go back to do visible again. Turn off all layers. Okay, well, we don't have any layers on this subtool or anything like that. But that would delete that layer. This would turn on the next layer for everything, and this would turn on double-sided. I don't think we really went through double-sided, but double-sided is good if you have a mesh and you can only see one side of it. Then you can turn on the other side. And double-sided should be in display properties, if I'm not mistaken. Double, right there, double-sided in display properties. So that would turn that on. That's what that would do. Let's move along here. So we did that. We got shift up. Shift visible subtools to the top of the list. So basically what this does is any subtools that have an eye on it, it'll move it all the way up to the top of the list. And this could be handy because you can see, these ones are kind of in the way because I'm not using them. So, maybe I want to do that. So let's do a shift up. All right, so let's look at what happened here. Basically, any of the subtools that had the eye on it are moved all the way up on the list. Anyone that didn't have an eye on it is down on the list. So that's what that does. Show or hide all subtools. This shows all your subtools, and then this hides all your subtools. The only reason why the other, I believe, let me see why it didn't. I want to double check something before I say anything. I'm not even 100% sure how this works. Show hide all. Well, it doesn't really make much sense to me. Show or hide all subtools. So you can only show or hide all subtools, and if you click it again, it goes back to the original where it hides any subtools that weren't visible to begin with, but any ones that were still visible are going to remain visible no matter what. Hopefully that makes sense. Toggle top subtool. Toggle top subtool. I'm not really sure what that's for. Toggle top subtool. Oh, this toggles the visibility of the top subtool, I believe. Yeah, this just turns the visibility on and on, but you can toggle it here. So you don't need to use that. You're going to find, there's going to be, you're probably not really going to mess with this. The only things you're going to really mess with in here, the one thing you'll mess with a lot is fill all visible subtools with a certain color. you know, you'll mess with that a lot when you want to fill material, if it's all the same material or something like that. A visible subtool. Let's say you got 20 teeth on different layers. You know, you make all those teeth visible, and then you just choose, you know, your color. You pick the color, and then you choose color here. You click OK. Now all those teeth are filled with that color, and it's faster than selecting them all and filling them one by one. Or same with the material, you know, in there. A mirror is something that I use in there. I usually use, but you know, other than that, I don't really use too many of these. The low res visibility I do use. I think, I don't know, but I think we actually went over that, where all visible or all low or all high. Let me see. Yeah, look right here, all low, all high. So you don't have to go to Subtool Master to do that. It's right here, all low, all high. But there was a time where it wasn't there, so that's why, you know, it's there. That's why it's there. This is old. Subtool Master is a little old, but it's still useful. Okay, so let's move along. We're up to text, 3D, and vector shapes. So how does this work? Well, basically the way this works is you can pick your font here, any font you want to change, and then you can click New Text and just type in something. Let's learn 3D. Oops. I'll do a shameless plug, actually. I'll do my Instagram for you guys, at EnoughTalent3D. Click OK when you're done. And you can see it says computing, please wait. When it says stuff like that, don't press anything. Is basically the general rule of thumb. And just let it run its course. Oh, looks like it crashed on us. Okay. Crashes do happen, of course, so that's why it's always good to save. I save a lot, because if you're working on something for a few hours and you don't save and you lose it, yeah, you just lost all that work. So definitely save. ZBrush does like a, you know, a saved version of and everything as well. So let's just go back to ZBrush here. And we'll get this going on again. It's alright, we're going to get everything working all over again here. And you can see I use a ton of programs. There's more than one tool for the job. Sometimes things are easier to do in one program as opposed to another program. So let's just do, you know, that file is a pretty high file probably, but let's just try to create, for this part of the, you know, the tutorial, let's just make like a new project. Here we go. Let's just choose a new project, right? And let's just go back to our Z plugin where we were before. I want this closed, actually. I'll double click to close that. And remember, we can drag this over, so we can just hold this and drag it right here. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back to text, 3D, and vector shapes. And we're going to click new text. And I'll just type in my Instagram. Oh man, which is at EnoughTalent3D. It's NUFFTALON 3D. Okay, that's my Instagram. And there we go. You can see I'm going to just go solo mode. And you can see that we have a new way of bringing in text, which is great because it gives you good text right off the bat. Well, for the most part, you know what I mean? Like you can see, like if I divide this up, it's not so great. But it's good starting text. And there's some options in here you can tweak. You can change the resolution. You can change the extrusion. So I can extrude this text out. Like so. The spacing, I believe it's the spacing of the text. But don't quote me on it. Yeah, it's the spacing. So I'll just push the spacing in for now. And you can see we can just change everything like right here on the fly, and it updates automatically, which is awesome. So I usually like a nice thick font like that. Nice and bold. So what else can we mess with here? So the spacing I just pushed together for now. Then there's a bevel. And bevel, you can see that it gives you a beveled edge, which is awesome. You see that? And it gives a pretty clean bevel, actually. So that's what that does. You can see if we subdivide, it's still not the best. And just see what else. Bevel resolution. You can turn up the bevel resolution if you wanted to. This will add more resolution to just this bevel part here to make it thicker. You can add resolution to the overall mesh. I could bump it up to 5, and you can see it's going to get a little thicker on us. I think this might be able to hold the shape better actually too. Let me see if I control D now. You can see it's starting to hold the shape a little better, but this part's collapsing. There's not enough geometry at the bottom. That's why it's collapsing like that. See what I mean? There's nothing to really. There's no support at the bottom, so it's crashing or collapsing. It's in itself. Replace current subtool by a 3D text mesh. We don't have to do that. You can add a new SVG file, create a new 3D object with a selected SVG file if you want to bring in an SVG. Load a font. You can load a font from disk. So if you have a specific font that you wanted to use, you can go ahead and load that in there. And vertical, let's see. So vertical does what you think, which is vertical's up and down. So it puts everything up and down for you, and reverse puts everything in reverse, which is kind of not sure when you would use that. Maybe you would use that if you were doing a 3D. I don't know. If you were doing a 3D print, would it matter? I don't know. I don't think it would. I'd have to ask my 3D print buddies about that one. Curvature. Let's see what curvature does. Okay, so it's added more of a curve edge. Okay, so it's taking the bevel and it's adding more of a curve to it. Makes it a little more rounded. So that's what that does. So yeah, so this is the text 3D and vector shapes. I mean, you could do shapes too as well. I think, let me see what you can load here. You can load a text preset. Oh, okay, that's different. Edit, SVG, you can do a new SVG. But you need an SVG file. Yep, you need an SVG file in order to load in. So we would probably have to create an SVG and set unsupported file. It's alright. So we probably have to create an SVG in another program, like Photoshop or something, or Illustrator. But yeah, we got something pretty cool. So I guess, in order to to get this the way you want, if you want to add more resolution to it, I think what we need to do, I don't think bumping it up is going to do much. Let's just bring this curvature down a little bit. Let's keep that hard edge. So I would say probably the best way to do that would, before you subdivide, go to geometry, not array. Go to geometry, turn off this move, and then divide it. 1, 2, 3. And then turn your smooth back on and divide it. And then it should be able to hold it pretty well. Although we can still kind of see this faceting going on here. What if I just did it a few times? Let me try this. Delete higher. Let's try take this off and divide. And then put it back on. Then divide. And we're still kind of losing the bottom a little bit. I don't know. You could use like a zmodeler or something too. I mean, the results that I'm getting in here aren't that bad. But if you really want to keep that bottom, you could probably, keep the edge with the zmodeler brush. You would have to go back down though, and I would say delete higher. I'm not going to do like the whole thing, but you would basically have to go here and choose your zmodeler brush. And we didn't even learn zmodeler. We're going to have to learn that in depth on another episode. But you would choose that, and then you would choose. Oh, we need to make sure we're on the edge. Make sure you're on the edge. Don't be like me. I think it's already set. Let me see what happens if we just drag. Yeah, see I can just drag an edge here? Yeah. So, I mean, I'll do it on this end so you can see what I'm talking about. But if I go up a few times, it's holding the shape better than this. I'll go back to what I originally had. So what I'm doing is I'm literally highlighting this edge, and I'm just dragging, and it's making an edge. The reason why it's making an edge is because when I'm highlighted over an edge, I have insert edge action selected. By holding spacebar, I can select to insert an edge on a single edge loop, or I can do multiple edge loops. If you do multiple edge loops, you can specify how many edge loops you really want. So I think it's set to 8 right now. So if I do this, well, actually, you could just go up and down. Matter of fact, you could just I'm holding left and I'm just going up and down to add more edges in there. So matter of fact, just do that. Just do that. This might fix things for us. Oops. Make sure you're on the edge, because if you're not on the edge, you're going to get some problems. I mean, I'm just doing this real quick. For ultimate control, I probably might even take it into a different 3D program, but you can do it in here with the zmodeler brush. So let's just see here. So I think this should hold the edge a little better, and it does. You see how this is nice and hard here, and you see how the top is like collapsing because the top doesn't have that support. The top don't have the support here. That's why that's collapsing. But now I added the support at the bottom. And you really don't need all these, but it's a little over exaggerated. I'm going to go to single edge loop. For this part, like I would just drag it up like there. You see how there's an edge there? Just add an edge so it don't collapse. That's all. And add one right there. So I would do something like that, and this edge loop was going to follow all the way around the whole letter. So we pull the edge loop up there and pull it down there. Yeah, or you can just manually put it in there. However you want to do it. I said I wasn't going to do the whole thing, and I'm doing the whole thing now. Oops. It's important that you're on the edge when you drag, because if you're not on the edge, it's going to drag something else instead. All right, so like I said, it would be something like that. Did we add any to that L? Let me see. It's actually pretty easy to use, to be honest with you. I mean, I could do the same in 3ds Max, but I use a keyboard shortcut to do it, which is like a swift loop to loop an edge, or I can just highlight edges. I got to highlight edges first, and then I have to click, connect, and then do it. So this method it's pretty good, actually. I would say, if you don't have any other 3D program, you can definitely get away with it in this program. Oops. All right, that's enough. That's enough for now. And you could see, basically any area that's messing up. You would use dynamic subdivision because dynamic is non-destructive, so I can turn it on and off. Dynamic doesn't apply until you click apply. So this way, it adds the subdivision, but this way it gives like it activates, it dynamically, like it's not really there. If I just turn it off, it's gone. So that's what dynamic does. And I'm not even sure if I even explained before what dynamic was. So this is how it would work. I would say, see what's holding edge, see what's not holding the edge. You could see the letter D is kind of collapsing. It's not holding the edge when I hit dynamic on. It gets kind of curved. See that? So that's a good example of an area that would need fixing. So you just add those edges in there. There has to be geometry to support it. Maybe one like right there. Now it's holding the edge better. Okay. All right. So yeah. So that's how you would go about that. Let's move along. Oh, we're up to Transpose Master. Oh man. Oh, Transpose Master. Where to start? So much to go through with Transpose Master. But you know what? Let's do it. That's why you guys are subscribed to me, right? So we can learn. So Transpose Master is a way that you pose your character. I guess what I'll do is I'll just do it on. I'll do it on this character. It comes with ZBrush. So I'll just do it on this 1 second. Oops, I can't see what I'm doing. Oh, if you can't see anything, press F. You see I can see the feet. Hit comma to get rid of that. All right, so all we need is this. We don't need these other tools. But you can see there's a lot of different project files like to help you get started if you're having problems, or maybe you're not making maybe you're not even making a human. Maybe you're making a robot, But you could use this as reference for whatever you're making. All right, so we'll kind of just do one of those, I guess. Don't even worry about it. Oops. Let's give this man some shorts for now. So we'll go back. We're just going to go to extract and we'll extract a pair of shorts out for this guy. We're in solo mode. That's why it disappeared. Because we were in solo mode. Alright. Now he has his shorts on. The reason why I wanted to give him clothes real quick is just it's going to kind of hit home how the Transpose Master works. So what we'll do is we'll give him, let's just say we had finished shorts, right? And let's just say he had boots on as well, right? So we'll extract out a pair of boots for him. Usually if I'm doing boots, I'll probably hit extract and make them really big. Probably not that big. Look, it's probably a bad example. Horrible example. Hold on. Let's get rid of that. We want to smooth that out. Double thickness. Man, what's going on? Hold on. Okay, let's just use this for the sake of time and everything we got to cover. All right, so he has these bear claws, and to make them look like boots, I'll probably hit this with the in flat. Oops. To kind of push these out like this. It's kind of a quick way to make boots. And then what I'll do is I'll hit it with a Dynamesh. And this will kind of fix it up a little bit for us. See that? Now it's starting to look like boots. And then, well, we could probably take the flatten brush to the bottom if we want to just be quick about things. You know, we can kind of just do that. And we can use the move brush. Make sure I took perspective off and I'm using the grid and I'm just kind of pushing down to make sure that these boots are flat. But this is basically, you know, a base for boots, more or less. And on the inner part, you know, just kind of push this part in a little bit. Oops. Push this down. All right, rough boots. All right, nothing crazy. But yeah, there we go. We got the guy some boots. Let's move along and work on some other part real quick. Let's just give him a shirt, I guess. So for shirts, you know, the best way to do a shirt for me would be to use the lasso. So I'm gonna hold control. I'm gonna use my lasso, and then on the tablet, I'm gonna hold control. While I'm holding control, I'm gonna draw like this. So I'm more or less gonna go like that. Okay. I'll do it again. So I'm gonna hold control, and I'm gonna draw. And I have symmetry on. If you mess up the bottom or something, you can fix it. You can go back over it with a You can either freehand it. I'll probably just go back over it like this, yeah, something like that. And then his sleeves, I would probably fix his sleeves up. Oops. Something like that. Okay. Masking is a little easier. Like right now I'm at a lower level, but if I was to go up, a level, it would be easier to make a mask. I probably should have went up, but let's see what happens with this. Maybe this will work for us. So we're just going to extract again. Well, it's too thick, so we're just going to bring the thickness down. This thing's something it's very finicky. You got to kind of dial it in sometimes. But I usually make it thicker than it needs to be. And then I kind of dial back on things. I'll smooth it out. I'll make it thicker than it needs to be, and I'll smooth it. Too big. A little bigger. All right, let's just use this. I'll fix it. I don't mind. I don't mind. I'll fix it. I'm just going to smooth it out. Oops. All I'm doing is smoothing. Then I'll use the move brush and hold Alt and pull it out. Okay. And then to get rid of these other pieces here, I could probably just H-polish it out. And a trick is to H-polish. If you use H-polish, it'll get rid of that. Okay. So you could do something like that. Let's use the move brush. Pull this out. I'm holding Alt and pulling it out. But I'm not going to go too crazy. I just want to show you that. But let's see. We're going to get rid of the mask because we don't need the mask. Control drag to get rid of that mask. Go back to the shirt, and you can dynamesh the shirt at this point. Okay. You can add some levels to it, and you can just start smoothing it a little more. But again, I'm not going to go crazy with this. All right, so let's just say we have a character, right? And he has all his stuff on. Let's just subdivide this. So this is our character. He has his clothes on. And we want to pose him. We want him to be posed a certain way, right? So how do we get this guy out of this stance, right? How do we make him so he looks like he's actually doing something and not like a robot? Well, that's where the Transpose Master comes in. The way that it works is I'm going to go through it first. First, you want to click T-Pose Mesh. What it's going to do is it's going to take everything that I have, and it's going to make it, if you go down to Subtool, you're going to see it made everything into one layer. Okay, everything is one whole layer right now, and you're probably wondering why it did that. Well, it did that so that it can move everything together, basically. But it's only like that for now. So the way you want to work is I'll use the lasso. I'm going to hold, control and just drag over this area here. Then I'm going to hold control, and now I can select this part. So I inverted it. Next, what you can do is you can grab your rotate tool. Grab the rotate is the best thing to do. So unlock this by clicking the lock icon and move your pivot to where it would bend at in real life. So your elbow, your forearm would bend right there. in that area. So you want to lock it like that, like so. And then you could even tweak it even further for added effect, right? To make it a little better. Then you would go ahead and lock it again. And now if I rotate it, you could see that I could actually pose my character. So I can actually move his arm. But you'll notice that it's kind of like, it might be a harsh bend. Let me zoom in so you can see what I'm doing here. So posing is good to do early on your sculpt. If you sculpt way too much, too fast, like if you really sculpt to the end and then you try to pose, you're going to have a lot of fixing to do. So if you get to a good base like this, you could pose it and then sculpt to your heart's content afterwards. You know, and you can see here I can move this any way I want. So that's a hard. This is kind of like a hard move, right? It's like a harsh move. Now, if I wanted to do a softer move, I can hold Control and click, and I'm going to blur out. It'll blur out the mask. And now, if I do it, it's more of it's more like an organic move. But it kind of gets too organic, so you got to kind of find the happy balance sometimes. But I mean, this might work. Let me just do another area though. For fingers, if you wanted to pose fingers, in this model, if we turn it on, you could see there's different, you know, you could see where the joints are and everything. So if I want to make this thumb move, I probably select it up to here with the lasso and then Control click to, you know, redo, what do you call it, to redo the mask or whatever, to invert the mask. Then unclick the lock icon on your gizmo and move it down. Maybe around here. And then we can... and the more accurate you are with these things, the better results you're going to get. The better your bend will be. Also, it looks like I grabbed something else. See that? So I have other stuff that I need to mask off. So I can just hold Control and start to mask this off. Mask off anything that you don't want to be affected. So we're going to do like a little pose on this thing. Not too crazy. Just something so you understand how to do this. All right, so now we're masked off. Oops. Now I'm getting a weird result because when I turn to this way, you could see like it's not even on the thumb. So I'm going to grab this arrow here. There's these 4 arrows at the side. Grab that to move this around. All right. And something happened where this kind of got out of whack on us. So now this is on. You could see that it's on. It's on good now. Now, oops, lock it when you got it where you want it, and then move it. Okay. Rotate it. So maybe you only want to put it like right here or something. And then right here would be like the joint. So I'll just Control click to invert that, unlock it, move it here, lock it up. Boom. Okay. And you know it takes time, but this is a good way to pose. If you don't have Maya or something and you can't rig it, I mean, there's three ways that I know to pose a character. If you're actually posing it yourself, and you're not using Poser or anything like that, or like a DAZ 3D or something. It's T-Pose Mesh, which is what we're doing now, zsphere rig, which we didn't do yet, and rigging in Maya or Max or something like that. Traditional rigging in another 3D application. Those are the 3 methods that I know of. There could be more, but those are the ones I know of. So for this, I'll probably just kind of move his arm, or not his arm, but maybe put his fist down. Oops. It's not even on it. So make sure you're like in the middle. You could click too. Like if I'm over here, I could click. You see how it's snapping to vertexes, which is just the points in between squares. So if I click up here, for example, it'll snap there. It'll make our job a little faster, and then I can go ahead and fine tune things. I'm moving the blue, and then just lock it again. And then you can kind of move it down a little bit. But you can see I'm going to control click to get a little softer bend, maybe. Yeah. And you're probably wondering how does this affect things like this? Well, you can move them. You can move like, this together as well. So I'll click. Oops. Unlock. Make sure you unlock in order to move your pivot. Otherwise, you won't be able to move it. You can move stuff like this or something. I mean, the shirt itself is not. It's not like skin tight. I probably should have made it skin tight to show this a little better. But let's continue onwards. But yeah, so basically we can do where his torso is. We could just really hold control and click to really blur that out. Then go to your rotate, unlock it, click like right around here maybe, lock it back, and then we can kind of move this around a little bit. So it looks like it, bend his torso a little bit so he has some movement to him. You can move this around too, like freehand, if you're not getting what you want, or if it's getting messed up. Oops. So we can get something like that. I could probably get out of this mode. You could smooth this out. You see how I was like giving that look? You can either smooth it out, or you can add in. You could sculpt in this mode too. I forgot to mention, and it'll transfer it. So you could literally sculpt in this transpose mode as well. While you're moving stuff around. You could do that if you wanted to. I think that's his nipples coming through. Let me undo that. So really doesn't matter. But so that's how you do that. And what else can we move? Well, we can move we can make his mouth open. If you hold control and you click, make sure you're on like one of these tools, but hold control. And if you hold control and you just drag up and down, you can get like this selection thing going on here. See this? Turn on symmetry. Might work better. I don't think I am in the middle anymore. Oh, you know what? Local symmetry might help us with this. Oops. Before I would even move him much, I would have probably did this step first. You can see it's giving me a hard time. We can do a manual selection though, but it's a little more difficult. But let me just show you on another piece. We'll get back to that part. If I hold control and I click like this finger, you see how I can kind of go up. I have symmetry on. That's why it's doing both sides. Turn off symmetry. and just do it again. So it'll go up to where you clicked. It'll add like a mask on top of it. So this is another quick way to mask areas off as well. Looks like our knee got a little messed up. Always look at what you're doing. It's very easy to mess things up. That wasn't too big of a thing. Even this got messed up. I don't know what happened with this. You could just smooth it out though. So yeah, so we can go back to rotate and you can drag upwards. Now I have a mask on this and I don't want that mask. I don't know why I can't take it off. Oh. Take off that mask. And make sure there's no alpha in there. I don't think you need the alpha. So the other thing I can do is I can hold control and go up and you can see it selected that tool. So this is another way of selecting an object. So you're holding control and you're dragging upwards. But you can see I lost the selection on the boot. So how do you keep the selection on both? You hold control, you drag up, and you hold control and shift, and you drag up on the next piece. All right, so control and shift allows you to keep dragging up. Control shift, drag up. Control shift, drag up. So that's how that works. So that's another way to select. Now let me demonstrate this on his finger. Hold control and drag upwards. But you can see what it's doing. It's another way of selecting, and it kind of just, I forget what it's called, but it allows you to quickly select an area and, you know, move it or whatever. So it'll get you a quarter of the way there. And for this, I can kind of just go back and make sure that's okay. Now you're probably wondering why it's doing that. It's because it's trying to bend it from where the pivot is, and the pivot's all the way to the tip of the finger, which isn't good. It needs to bend. It needs to bend at his knuckles. So you have to unlock this and move it up. Should be over here, where his knuckles are. Oops. And then you should be able to get a better bend. The only issue is though too is this part here. We have too much selected, so the best way to do that, I'll just do this. I'll just control click and control drag like that, and then control click to invert it. And now I can grab that rotate and I can move these fingers the way I want to. It's doing it diagonal because my thing right here is diagonal, so you might want to unlock it and, you know, make sure that this is sized up good. And if you're getting a weird harsh bends, then control click to blur the mask and try it again to get a better bend. Yeah, or control shift click. Or is it control alt? I forgot. Control alt, maybe. No, it's control shift, I think. But yeah, you can control the kind of the blur you get with this. So let's try to move his leg out. All right, let's lock that. You know, maybe he's stepping forward or something. maybe he's not. Who knows? Or maybe he's kicking a soccer ball. Who knows? So when you pose, you want to kind of do it in pieces like this. So you move the whole thing first, and then you get, you move the big part first, and then you move the small part afterwards. That's the way I usually do it. So we can move this. So off in space, so make sure it's kind of in there. Like in the middle should be good. Oops. Oops. Just kind of messing around with this pose here. It's good to practice posing though, for when you really have a character that you want to pose. This will make you, you'll understand what it does. You can see like here, I'm getting something I don't want, right? So practicing posing is a good thing to do. I kind of put him on an angle. Okay. But you can literally just, highlight anything you want and change it, right? So his neck, for example, maybe he is looking at like a soccer ball or something, who knows? Well, for the neck, I probably would do, let me just click here so I can zoom in on this piece. Oops. I'm going to zoom out. You can do a rough selection for the neck here, and then just invert it or whatever, and just blur it a lot. If you don't see your point, you can see like the pivots like where I last left it. So I got to bring it up, or I can just click, or you can just click. Don't forget to click. You can just click and bring it up. Probably easier because it snaps to it when you do that. So just do that. Matter of fact, I always forget to do it. I don't know why. So that's a lot faster. We can kind of start to twist his head or tilt his head or something there. Knowing anatomy and how things can bend and everything like that will definitely help you in doing this. Because if you don't know your anatomy, it's not going to look believable. You know what I mean? So like this one, I think we kind of stressed him out a little bit, but it's all right. Maybe he's exaggerated. Maybe want to turn his whole neck a little bit. Control Alt to and drag, and draw on it or whatever to undo whatever you did if you didn't like it. Rotate. Let's see what happens here. Yeah. And then sometimes you could just kind of manually move it. If things kind of get out of place, just move it over a little bit. After you rotate it, if it gets out of place for you. All right, so basically what you would do is you would do something like this, like what I just did, right? And when you're done posing it, and you're happy with the pose, let's just say, oh man, this is awesome, I'm happy with the pose. You're going to hit T-Pose Subtool. And ZBrush is going to basically take everything and pose it the way you just had it. And you could see like it has that level, of detail that it had before I posed it. But now everything's posed. So Subtool Master poses everything together. And you can see I have all my layers again. Okay. So that's what Subtool Master, not Subtool Master, Transpose Master. Sorry, that's that part. All right, so that's one way of doing it. The second way is using something called a zsphere rig. Okay, so we're going to do a zsphere rig right now. So what a zsphere rig is you would click first zsphere rig. Make sure zsphere rig is on first. Remember, this is a second way of posing. This is the second way of posing something. We could probably go back, matter of fact. Let's just go, but can we go all the way back? No, I don't think we can. All right, let's just keep it the way it is. It's fine. But yeah, this is a Z-sphere rig. So we'll click this, then we'll click T-Pose Mesh. And now we're getting this red ball, and you're probably wondering what that is. And it's confusing when you first see this. But there's another thing called Z-spheres inside of ZBrush, and Z-spheres are good for creating creatures and we're going to create some creatures too later on with it, but for now we're using it for a rig. So we're using it to try to rig this guy. So the way it works is if I just highlight an area and I go like this, it draws out another area. We don't care about that. So that's what that's doing. I can just keep drawing these out just by hovering over it. If I'm in draw, that is, I can draw these out like this, and then I can use the move to move them, and you can see they move by these points, which are like, you see they move kind of together like a skeleton would. And then you could rotate them too if you needed to. So you can see if I go like this, I can rotate this, or I can rotate this. Right, so that's how we can make a rig by using this. So I'll do this in practice. I believe if you draw one out, you have to be in draw. If you draw one out and then you go to draw another one and you hold, I think Control, is it? Hold on. No, hold Shift. So if I draw one out a certain size and then I draw another one out and I hold Shift, it's going to make it the same size. So I'm drawing it out, and I'll draw another one out, hold Shift. Makes it the same exact size before I even let go. So draw one out, still holding, hold Shift. It'll snap it to the same exact size. Hopefully that part makes sense. Make sure your symmetry is on with X when you do this. You want your draw size of your brush to be small, because I put it to 0 really, because this will give you more accuracy. So put your draw size 0, because if you draw size like this, it might be a little harder kind of to know where you're selecting. So just put your draw size to 1 or 0, whatever lets you do. So you would draw these Z-spheres and you can just move them anywhere you want, really. And you can do it with symmetry. So I made pretty big mess here. So I can either, Control Z to undo it. I can Alt click too to delete these out. I should be able to Alt click. Make sure you're in draw. If you're not in draw, it won't do it. Yeah. Alt. Hold Alt and click to get rid of them. So we're going to go back to where we just had this one Z-sphere. Now, is my symmetry on? I don't think it is. Now, my symmetry's on. This is actually not going to work too well for us because the symmetry is all off center. So I do apologize. We're going to, if you do a Z-sphere rig, it should be like, you should do it. You should do the Z-sphere rig and then that's it. Your model should be like this before you do the Z-sphere rig. You should do Transpose Master last. If you want to do both, you can do both, but I would say do the other one, the first one I showed you guys, do that one last and do a Z-sphere rig first, or just do Transpose alone. So we're just going to go back to this default model that we have here. I think from Nick Zuccarello was the artist that gave us this model here. Okay. And we'll just kind of... Alright, so for this what we'll do is we'll just give it a couple sub-levels. We're going to leave him the way he is. I think we can actually append it to this. Let's try that. Append. Oh, it doesn't matter because we have this. So never mind. We'll keep this. All right, so we're going to go back. We're going to click T-pose mesh. It's saying it's not recognizing it. Hold on. If you get errors sometimes, just go down, delete higher. Try to divide it. Let's see if that works. Not recognized as a T-posed mesh. All right, let's just try to draw something on his arm to see if that's an issue. Let's just give him bracelets. Let's extract out some bracelets. Hit accept. And now let's go back up and do that. All right, now it'll work. Okay. All right, so we just click Z-sphere rig. We click T-pose mesh. All right, so now we're back to where we need to be, and we can get our symmetry going on. See how we have our symmetry here? Bring your draw size to 0. So if I draw on this side, it's going to draw on both sides now. All right, so a Z-sphere rig allows you. Let's go into actually scale, and we're going to make this small. So I'm dragging up and down in scale to make this smaller. You want to make sure that these are inside of his body, like this circle's inside of his body. Click move, and you can just bring this up. Make sure your symmetry's on. I'll probably bring it like right here. I think this is good. So a rig, is basically like the parts that need to move and rotate. So we know if we put something here, it's going to be able to rotate the neck. All right. So we'll put this here. We're going to go back to draw, and we'll draw another one in there. I'm going to hold shift so we can get it kind of the same size here. Oops, did it make 2? I didn't want it to make 2. Make sure when you do draw that these snap to the middle. See how it's like right here? That'll give me 2. But if you want 1, you got to make sure it snaps to the middle. So if I just hover, I'm not even touching my Wacom tablet. If I just hover with my pen, it'll snap, and then I can do it. Now I have 1, because that's all we want for this. We just want 1. And we are going to build a rig. A quick and dirty rig, but a rig nonetheless. Okay. Let's move this down here. I find with the Z-sphere rig that it's kind of a back and forth process, because you might have an area that's not deforming properly or something, or you might have an area that is collapsing on itself. So you have to add more Z-sphere rigs so it doesn't collapse. Because that can definitely happen with this. So we're going to keep it simple. We'll put these here, for his arms. And then we'll go back to draw, and we'll draw another one. We'll hold shift to make it the same size. And we'll drag it to where his elbows can bend. Makes it a little messy when you do it like this. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm just going to hold shift to make it the same size. Then go to the move again. And the wrist can bend, so we're going to stop there with the wrist because wrists are able to bend. And basically, like I said, anywhere that can bend, you should be stopping and adding a Z-sphere. Okay. And then past the wrist, we start to get into fingers. Now the fingers can get a little tricky, but I'll try to show you how we can do fingers. I usually put this like right around the middle of the palm, like right here. And then I'll use draw again, and I'll draw another one out. And then I'll use move, and I will start to move this to where it needs to be. Oops. If you click one time on it, you can rotate around the object, which makes it easier to work with. I could actually just drag this to the end and then scale this downwards. I'm just drawing on the tablet when I do that, by the way. I'm just, like if you draw up and down, it'll make it a rig or whatever. Okay. Make sure it's in there. And then where the thumb bends, you want to add another Z-sphere. So you go back to draw, and it should be like around there, the thumb bends. All right, so you got to do the same for the other fingers as well. This middle part doesn't matter too much. We just need to like branch everything off to get this other one going on. So, like we could just draw these in here. Is it doing local symmetry? What is it doing? Okay. I'm not going to worry about it. It can't do it. Okay, you could just go like this and move these to where they need to be. I would probably even go so oops. So I'm basically just adding in like where the knuckles would be, basically, because the knuckles can bend. That's another area that we can have bend. You can see it gets a little crowded over here. So sometimes you can just draw on top or something. We're just worried about the area that bends. I don't really care about too much about what's going on here. I care about the bending, the areas that bend for the most part. Okay. We could add another zsphere in here too by just clicking in the middle. And then we can kind of move this out of the way if this is kind of in the way for us. So we have a little bit more wiggle room. And then, scale it down or whatever. Could do the same for this if you wanted to. Just move it here. Scale it down. All right, so now we have the setup for our knuckles. And the accuracy on this, you don't got to be too accurate, to be honest. Just got to make sure it's kind of in there. Not really extruding outwards. So it is one of those kind of like back and forth processes a little bit, but it's a lot faster than doing a traditional rig in Maya or something, So if you're just trying to get a quick rig, this is one way to do it. The only thing I don't like about this method of rigging in ZBrush, the zsphere rig, is that it's always like in ghost mode. You know what I mean? So you can't really see how things look if things are getting distorted. So I would say if you're going to do a zsphere rig, do it early on, like at this stage where you can their fingers, but they're not detailed. This is the stage you want to start, using that at. I think. Oops, I'm grabbing more than I can handle. Oh, you know what? I think I put my draw size up. Let me put that down. There we go. That's why having your draw size down is important, because I was selecting 2. It was grabbing both of them, and I didn't want both. I only wanted the one. And then we just want to click to draw in our joint, right? So we have our knuckle, right, that would bend. Then we have another part right here, and then we have another joint like up here. Okay. All right, then we would just do the same. Is this doing in symmetry? It should be doing in symmetry. Yep, it is. Okay. Yeah, make sure symmetry's on, or else it's not going to do it on the other side. See that? If that symmetry's not on, then you're only going to get it on one side. All right, let's move through these other ones a little faster, okay? So I'm just going to really just go real quick and get this done. Oh, man. I think I added more than I needed. Sorry. Well, not more than I needed, but sometimes it's just better to just go back to draw and delete and redraw it out if it gives you issues. I don't know why my draw size got bigger again. It's supposed to be at 1. Okay. Come on, ZBrush, work for me today. Go in there. Oops. All right, so it's roughly there. And to know the placement of this, you can kind of just look at where your own fingers bend. Like I know, like the middle finger, for example, right? This is where the joint is. The joint's a little higher on the middle finger. It's like right here. The same up here. This joint's a little higher on the middle finger. I wouldn't even say it's higher. It's just because the middle finger is bigger. That's why it's there. Because the middle finger is longer. Okay. Maybe we'll even bring this up in a little bit. The size that you make these don't really matter. You just, like I said, you just don't want them coming out of the geometry, because you'll run into you could run into some problems. So it's better to keep it inside the geometry. That's really my rule of thumb. Ha! And I'm working on the thumb. Get it? Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I'll probably even add another one in here, just because it's kind of protruding outwards. Then when we rotate it, we just gotta make sure we rotate the right one. That's it. I'll scale this downwards too. All right. You can click to just to select the point that you want to work on as well. Well, if you, like I said, if you click, it'll rotate around it. We'll go back to draw, and I'm going to draw another one. I'm going to hold shift to, basically the same thing. We're just going to keep going here. It gets a little repetitive, as you can see. There's not. This isn't. I don't know. Is it therapeutic maybe or something? I don't know. So I'm just looking at my fingers again here to draw into the next joint. Just like the relationship of where it is. So it's like down here. And then this one is this one's supposed to be lower than this one. It's supposed to be like right here. This is like a rough estimate. So the rig could be good for things like, I don't know, wings on a creature. If you have something complex and you need to like make the wings like wrap around it, like if you have like a vampire character and he has wings, you might want to rig those wings so you can get them exactly in place, like it's wrapping around him. Z-spheres would be your best option for that. And that's just an example. I mean, but the possibilities with Z-spheres are endless. It's a great starting point. Z-spheres are a great starting point, and they have more than just this use. It's like we're using it for a rig, but you can use it for other things. Not just rigging. Make sure I'm looking at the right finger here on my hand. And this kind of goes above this, so like right around here. Okay. All right. So we just rigged the hands. That's done. All right. So the hands are rigged. We hope. And now we can do draw, and we can just keep going here. For the torso, it's good to have like to wrap like around like the rib cage area. Just because you have Z-sphere rigged doesn't mean it has to move either. Like you don't have to rotate something if you create it. For example, like you wouldn't move this, but it'll help it from collapsing the chest. I kind of trace around, I guess you can say, like just go around. down. And if it doesn't work, you can always go back and fix it up. And I'll show you how to do that. What we'll do is we'll just do this for now, so we can move along. And let's get to the bottom here. And let's add another rig, or not a rig, let's just add some. Let's add right around there, maybe. All right. So we would just add something like that right there. Now we're just doing the rig for the legs. Like the knees bend, we all know the knees bend, so. Let's just move this down. Let me see. Hold on real quick. I'm going to double check something. Be right back. 5 seconds. Sorry about that. All right. All right, so let's just finish this real quick. We know the ankles can move. I mean, the feet can move too, but I'm not going to rig. The toes can move, you know, but I'm not going to rig the toes. All right, so basically that's the way we would do the rig, okay? For the most part. We probably would add support actually too for the, so the stomach area doesn't mess up. I click to draw a Z-sphere first, and then I could just start to move this out. This is, like I said, this is a quick and dirty rig though. So let's not get too into it. But so you would basically make your rig like that. And then when you're done, let me store the rig. I believe when you're done, you have to click bind mesh, but I'll double check. I think you got to click bind mesh now. Let's double check to see. You got to go to rigging. There's an option called rigging in here somewhere. right here, rigging, and do bind mesh. And now that the mesh is now that you bind the mesh, you can move these pieces around. So oops. It's a little tricky. I'm in rotate, by the way, and I'm just kind of dragging on this. I don't think I can actually move it up and down. But you can quickly get a pose, going on here. You can see this is getting distorted because I should have put more stuff in like the head part. So that's kind of getting distorted there. And all I'm doing is clicking on it and rotating it. Now, I don't think I have enough. Oh, there it goes. That's right. You got to click the line. See the line there? You got to click that line. If you just click the ball, it only rotates that one piece. I always forget that. I don't know. It's so annoying. All right, so this is getting a little messed up because of the angle of things. So just go back if you mess something up and just do it again. And in the real world, things bend a certain way, right? So if you click, you can choose it too. Like if I click here, I can see the points or whatever, and it makes it easier. So I could click to see that section, and then I could start moving things. Click, move it. Click, turn it, rotate it, whatever you want to do. But you could see there, I would have to redo the head in order to really move it because it gets a little distorted. And I don't think I can actually, can't do that. Maybe we can do that. It still gets a little distorted though. So we'll keep the head the way it is. So in the rig, everything works pretty well except that area. And then here we go. We got the fingers, so we'll move the fingers down. This is great for fingers. Personally, I think it's great for fingers. A rig is great for fingers. So I'm clicking and moving that joint. Clicking, or you don't even got to click. You could see the bend that I'm getting is not like a natural bend, and that's because I only have one like zsphere here. So if I had more, I would get a better bend. Like if I put a z-sphere on each side of the joint, it's going to give me a better bend. Like right now, it's just giving me like a curved bend. And a curved bend is not very, it's not very natural. You can see it here if I do it extreme. And then for this, we can basically already move this down or whatever. All that stuff. All right, so we probably got a little carried away with this one. Move his arms backward and forward. Maybe we can make him like he's running or something. He's a weird runner. So, all right, let's just say this is what we wanted. When we're done, we go back to this T-pose subtool, and we can change it into that. Okay? And that's how a zsphere rig works. This button preserves existing polygroups. If you had any polygroups, it'll preserve those when you go to the merged mesh. When you hit the T-pose mesh, that's what that would do. Create new layer per subtool. This will make a new layer. Be created at the top subdivision level for each subtool before the pose is transposed, before the pose is transferred. So this creates a new layer before the pose is transferred. This right here, it allows you to store your zsphere rig into memory, and then if you want to put it on something else, you can paste your rig onto something else. Okay, so that's kind of how that works. All right, so that's the two ways of posing in ZBrush. So, and now if we want, we can take off zsphere rig, right? And we can just click T-pose mesh, and we could further just manually pose this, right? So we were having some issue posing the head, for example. Instead of like tweaking the zsphere rig, what we could do is we can just grab this head and just manually do it. Move this into place. And get this where it needs to be. I probably wouldn't bend it down yet, but whoops, I definitely clicked the wrong thing. Let's go back. Okay. That's the history. The history thing's like right here, so I always click it all the time on accident. Then you just got to kind of clean this up a little bit, smooth it out, smooth. If anything kind of looks off, you can kind of just manually fix it. And maybe he's looking down. And then when we're done, we just go to T-pose subtool again, and it'll just pose it for us. So that's the way to pose. Hopefully that made sense. UV Master. A UV Master is a way that you can unwrap your object. So what we'll do is we'll actually go to another project here. We'll just open a default sphere. Let's see what we got. Let's do a quad sphere. So quad sphere, you go down here to initialize. Sorry, I keep having this stuff open. It's not open by default. Don't worry about it. But go to initialize and just do a quad sphere. That'll get you that. Okay. Maybe we'll make the resolution a little better. So let's just do 8. All right. So I just changed the resolution to 8888, and there we have a quad sphere. Okay, and then I mean, you could just auto group it, and it'll make it one group, polygroup. Doesn't really matter. Oops. So a UV is that thing I was telling you about, like where you add like a seam and everything like that. There's something called UV Master inside of ZBrush. And one thing you want to do is you want to turn off symmetry, because it's going to try to calculate things on both sides and it's going to make a big mess. So take off symmetry. Not sure why that's on by default. And what I do, is, you could just unwrap it the way it is. But let me see, why is this? Choose this, enable control painting. Make sure this is on first, okay? Then choose attract. Attract. When you click attract, what it's going to do is it's going to put you into a color. Not attract, do protect. Protect. Is it protect? I think it's protect. It tells you though if you hover over it. But I think it's attract. Let's do attract. And then what you can do is you can draw, you can paint in your object here. You can paint in the areas you want to protect to get like a seam, like where your seams would be. So maybe for this spear, I might have, I might want to protect up here or something. Should I draw that in? I wonder. Well, if you polygroup it first, probably be easier, but it's all right. So I'm just going to hold control, do that, and then I'll just revert that. Oops. And then I'll just paint in that area if it lets me. It looks like it's moving. Grab the standard brush and take Z add off. Make sure RGB's on, and paint in the area that you want to attract. And what ZBrush is going to do its best to recognize that area and basically do something with your mesh. So I'll show you. Let's see what it does. So if we just click on wrap, and then we click flatten, it just unwrapped it basically like that. So if we do unflatten, it goes back to this. When we're in flatten mode, by the way, we can actually, this is your texture space, so this is like where the texture would go onto. So if I want, I could actually make this bigger or smaller as well in this mode. I can rotate it in this mode. I can put it where I want to. So if you have multiple pieces, you can go ahead and put them anywhere you want. In traditional texturing, you would open Photoshop and you would paint on top of this, like a face or whatever. You would paint it in color on your map. So this is a map, and this right here is the grid for the map, which is like your it's called something called texel density. But check seams. So check seams is going to show you where the seam of it is. So this right here is where the seam is. So when we unwrap it, it's cutting here and it's folding outwards basically. That's what it's basically trying to do. So our seam's up here. So when I click check seam, it's up here. That's where our seam is. Okay, so if we add a texture on this, the texture map, right? Let's just say I put on Import. If I go here, I hover and go to import. Oops. That thing's acting weird. Sorry. It's not letting me go to import. Oh, come on. Let me go to import. Probably got too much stuff open. It's probably why. Oh, another one bites dust. Oh, here we go. Import image. Sorry, it wasn't showing me the window. And let's just say we take our texture of Let's Learn 3D. It's going to put it on there. See that? It wrapped our image on there. But right here where the seam is where the image kind of ends, right? So that's where like the gap is. So in games, if you had a game, right, you would hide these seams like under arms or something. You know, it would be textured, but you would only see like this part or something, or you would only be able to rotate it like this or something. So you wouldn't really see this part. They do a good job of hiding seams these days. If you hit Control D, you can actually go up to get more resolution out of this to see this. But you can see like this image here, it's pixelated. It's only 350 by 350. And if we go to UV map, we're on a 1024 map. So if you do 2048, I think, and you do create UV, you have to be at the lowest sub level. What you could do is you could just do, you could just pick a different thing here. Like we could do the ZBrush logo, right? If I put the ZBrush logo, you can clearly see where the seam is. All right. You can't put textures on things unless you have, if it's UV'd. If you don't do that step and UV it, then you can't see it. Personally, I would usually UV in another program like 3ds Max. But you know, if you have to do it in here, you can do it in here. It's a little, I feel like there's less control of how your stuff comes out, but it works. So it's really up to you on what you want to do with that. Oops, I don't think we can do flatten. No, we can just check seams. Can we check seams? Not anymore. Okay, so that's what that is. You can also do some cool stuff too. Like if you texture something, you could do some cool stuff, and I'll show you what I mean. I'll go to the lowest, go to your lowest subdivision level, and go to UV map. And if you click like one of these, like UVC, and then you bump these up, and you start messing with this stuff, you could get some cool results. See that? It's actually just the logo. It's tiling the logo. It's repeating it like a million times or whatever. See that? So you can kind of mess around with that. And you could see the logo here again. A little better, right? So we can actually tile our texture on our model as well. Now, this texture is flat, you know, but this could work. But you could see I'm getting a little bit of some issues here. I think that's where the seam is. Yeah, this is where the seam is. So you see what happens when you have seams. You can get some weird results going on. And these are, like I said, these are just different UV methods. I probably would do these together like 8 and 8. And the tile, I don't know what I would do with that, but you could just mess around. So yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that. It's pretty cool. I mean, if it was facing the camera, though, you probably would show like this angle or something. But like I said, you have more control in other programs, but you can UV in this program and you can texture. So there you go. So that's some of the UV and UV Master. And next we have what ZBrush to Photoshop CC. So ZBrush to Photoshop CC, what it does is it gets your rendered images, right, and it'll bring it in. Whatever pass you have, it'll bring it into Photoshop on a layer, which we kind of went over. I'm not really gonna go over it in depth, but if you hover over it, it'll tell you what it is. Like we'll do another one. You could send to Photoshop as well. And what it's going to do is it's going to say, you know, where do you want to put it at? I want to bring it to Photoshop CC. And it's a JSX file. This may or may not work. Should work. I don't know if it's going to work, but. And then just give it a second, and it should just go into Photoshop. And it's going to do its thing here automatically, which is very nice because it kind of organizes all your renders and all your stuff for you. Although I have to like kind of, you know, get used to it because I don't do it that way. I usually save things out manually and put them together, but you know, you could do some cool stuff with this. This is for like, you know, the money shot, you know, and you want to tweak things a certain way for the final in Photoshop. This is how you do it, like concept art, whatever it is. So that's ZBrush to Photoshop, and that's all that's really in here. This just turns on different things that you want to put into Photoshop. If you want a specular pass, you would, you know, click this on and then, you know, send to Photoshop or ZBrush to Photoshop or whatever. So that's what that does. All right, so we actually finished Z plugin menu. The only thing we have left is Z script. We actually made it to Z script. Z scripting itself is like coding a little bit, and I'm not really going to do any Z scripting right now. But you can code in actions that you could use, and things of that nature. Let's close some of these out so we don't have a billion things open. And Z script. All right, so in ZScript, you can load a script, you can reload a script, you can go to a previous script, the next script, you can hide ZScripting, you can show actions on them, skip notes, skip ZScript audio, and you can store ZTime files, okay? You can record, when you begin recording a ZScript, you can begin recording an action and save it as a ZScript, like something you might do often. I don't know, maybe, oops, I should probably hit record first. So you can hit record. It says, would you like to fully initialize ZBrush now and whenever the Z script is executed? I'll just choose no for now. And you would just do something like this and you click end record. And then you could save it out. So I'll save it to the desktop. And then I think if you click reload, it'll do it again. Or load script. Oh, it's already on run Z script. I don't know why it's not working, but that's pretty much how it would work. I gotta really do it because I never really use it. It's probably could be a good time saver though in certain tedious tasks. But really, that is what Z scripting is. Just record actions. You know, make a change. Maybe if I do a duplicate change, for example. Let's click duplicate twice, and then end our session with that, and then just call it dupe. And if I click reload, let's see. If I click load, let's try to load that. And I actually don't know how that works. I'll have to figure it out. I generally don't mess with it, to be honest. So that's everything in here. All right, so let's kind of back up here. All right, we're going to back things up here. And well, let's do the zmodeler brush. So let's get some practice in with that. So the zmodeler brush is one of those things that make it easier to model in ZBrush. And when you should start out with one of these. So I would start out with probably like a cube. We'll just click Q cube. It's on 2x2x2. And we can make it bigger, smaller, whatever. You want to go to polyframe mode, or Shift F is the shortcut for that. And you can see that we have some stuff going on already. Then what we can do is we can press B for brushes, and we can go to this one right here, the zmodeler brush. And with our zmodeler brush selected, if we just do by default, we could start pulling out geometry. Or you can see it collapses in on itself if you go too inwards. See that? So you can pull out. All I'm doing is dragging on these polys. So I'm gonna, if I just drag and pull out, I can pull out a shape. And I have symmetry on, so it's doing it on both sides, of course. If you want to Q mesh like this whole thing, for example, you can hold spacebar, and you could do not all polygons, but face and front all. I think that should do it. Nope, that doesn't do it. A single poly. Flat border, maybe? Oh, this does the border itself. So that's kind of cool. I mean, and like, pretty fast you can create something, though. See that? You can also get in trouble, too. So you have two ways of doing stuff. Well, more than two. You actually have vertex, too, but I usually don't use vertexes. There's a vertex, which is a point action. There's a polygon action when you're hovered over polygons, and then there's the edge actions. So you got like 3 different ones in there. And zmodeler is good for making hard surface stuff. Let's go through the Q. Since we're already on QMesh, let's just go through all these methods here. By default, it's on QMesh. And you can see the action that it'll do is here. And your target is what you want to do it on. So if I want to do it on all these here, I'm doing it on a flat border right now. But if I want to do it a flat island, then it'll do it on the whole thing. It should. Yeah, you see this part's flat. So it's just kind of pulling this part out only. But this part's not flat, so it gives it that little bit of an edge going on. Kind of dips inwards or whatever. If you turn on dynamic, you can see how everything's looking here. And you can manipulate points in dynamic mode as well. So you can further shape this by hand. Kind of pull things up, or add an edge just by hovering and dragging on it. You can kind of add an edge in here where where it would make sense to add edges if you wanted a hard surface here. You could also grab these little points and pull them out to kind of fine-tune things. Not sure how to select multiple points. I have to figure that out, but usually you can just, like I said, just grab these points and pull them any way you want. This gives you a dynamic preview of what things will look like. If you want it to go up, you can add a subdivision. If you had a flat subdivision, it's flat like that. But if you want to smooth, it gets like that. All right. And it's non-destructive too, so this is what it looks like without the thing. So you can see how your mesh is looking non-destructively. And then you could just turn this off before anything even happened. When you're done, you click apply, but when you're still working on this, just keep this on. And you could just continue to work here. So I'll hold spacebar, I'll go back to a single poly, and I'll pull this out. And then we could see how this would look like. Or maybe I want to push this in and push it in. Let's go through each of them. Add to curve. Let's try add to curve. So add to curve is like, oops. I usually use add to curve, but yeah, what it's doing is it's adding like topology around my mesh. Add to curve a poly. So I think what this is doing is just adding geometry. And these are all the different options that you can do it to. And then you could do like a Q mesh on that. It's kind of cool. I don't think you can actually I gotta figure out how the curve thing works because I don't use the curve. I'm sure it's useful though. Matter of fact, if we hover over it and hold control, hold spacebar, hold control, does it tell you? No, it doesn't tell you what it does. Okay. We'll figure it out later on. Bevel. I'll show you how the bevel works. Oops. You know, maybe you need more geometry here. Now you have points that you can move. You can do another bevel in this one if you wanted to, and kind of Q mesh that outwards or something, or inwards or whatever. And push one in, pull one out. If you hold Alt, you can paint an area to make a change to. Which I think is an island. Is it an island? Maybe it's an island. I have to look into it more. I usually play around with this, but I kind of haphazardly usually play around. Like if I need to create something, I'll mess around with a few of these. I'll usually just kind of just go in here and just start going crazy and see what I can create. You know, that's usually the way I use it. So we looked at bevel already, right? And you can see visually what bevel's doing. It's adding more geometry in there. Bridge is not. Well, maybe it will work. You can see what bridge is doing. It's adding more geometry. It's bridging more geometry inside of here. It bridged to connect the polys. So to get like a better shape, maybe you might want to do a bridge. I don't know. Oh, I have dynamic off. I'll undo the bridge thing. And there's a ton of options when you when you go over everything. There's like so many different options. A lot of stuff. You got straight lines, so we can see what straight lines do. I think it tries to add a straight line in there. We got two polys, which is supposed to connect like two polys together. It's supposed to bridge two polys or something. Whoa. Let's move along though. Connect the polys. Let me just see. Bezier curves. All right, adds those. Spline. Circle. You can see what it's doing. It's adding the circle. The arc, if you want to arc, there's an arc. Arcs and lines. So this is, you would usually do this like if you're prepping your model to pull out a shape or something. That would be a good reason to do something like this. Like I wouldn't just do this and leave it there. I would start manipulating it afterwards. Like if I wanted to pull out a shape, oops, I could grab that little dot, pull this little dot, and then I could Q mesh this. Let's Q mesh. We Q mesh like a poly group or something. Let me see, poly group island maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Let's just move along. But you could see what it kind of does. You have all these different options here. There's a lot of stuff. You got to just kind of mess with it and figure out what it does. That's usually the best way to go about things. Creasing. So the crease. There's a crease right there. Crease adds like a double edge. See that? It's adding more of an edge in there. So it'll hold the shape. So maybe I want to crease this part. That'll make it like a harder area by creasing it. And we turn off dynamic, you can see how it looks. Yeah. So it gives me like a sharper point for that area. That's pretty much how creasing works. There's a ton of options in here. Delete. Well, you know what delete does. If we select something and click delete, it's going to delete it. So that's a pretty no-brainer. Do nothing. I don't know. Why do we even do that? Do nothing? Why would I do nothing? Okay. Let's not even worry about it. We have equalize. Equalize all polygons. Equalize all the polygons is basically going to take this edges and make them equal distance to each other. Okay, that's what it's going to try to do. You can see how clean it looks now. I believe that's what equalize is supposed to be doing. Extrude extrudes out what you got selected here. See? All right, so that's extrude. And there's, like I said, there's a bunch of stuff in there. Flip faces. I don't generally do this, but if you have an issue with one of the faces, you can just click it to flip it. It's going to flip it backwards, basically, and then you won't be able to. I think it's better for errors. Like if you have errors, you would flip a face. Inflate. Oops, did I even do it right? So inflate kind of just pulls it out. So we can inflate like these things right here. Kind of pull them out. That'll inflate it on the surface. Okay. Just another way of working, you know. That's what it is. It's just another way of working. So we can get a pretty complex shape. You can see right here. I'm getting something pretty complex already. So that was the inflate option. And then this just choose what do you want to inflate? You want to inflate all polygroups, a border, inner, you know, behind, all triangles, all quads, all polygons, a single polygon. So you can choose what you want to do. Insert nano mesh. We haven't used the insert nano mesh. Well, I mean, we've used it before, but insert nano mesh will insert a nano mesh that you have. You have to create nano mesh, and then it'll come up in here, and then you could use it to insert onto your model. So if I did all polygons and I did it insert, you know, the mesh, it's going to put it on. It's going to put it on everything here, and then we're left with something like this. I don't know why you would want to do that. All right. No, there's reasons. There's reasons for it. Trust me, there's reasons. If you do face front, actually, that still looks crazy. Single polygon, probably. Yeah, single polygon's the way to go. You can see I can do a quick selection, which I didn't show you guys yet, but if you hold Alt and you just make like a selection, you can hold Alt to get rid of it too, and you just kind of drag over these things. Make sure it's white, because if it's not white, then it ain't going to do it. But you see how it's just doing it in those areas? If I hold Shift, by the way, you can get it in any areas that have like the same color, I believe. But if I only want it in here, you know, I could do that. I could just put it in here if I wanted to. All right, so that's Alt. And that goes for all the different options in here. Like hold Alt and click this like this, then hold spacebar, click Q mesh, right? And it's just going to pull this part out. Well, it should at least. If I did it right, oops, you know what? You got to make sure that you're on the right option too. I think the option was, I think if you keep it to single poly, it'll work. Yeah. If you just put it on single poly and you do that option, it'll do it. So if I do Alt, it's only going to, you know, affect this area. See that? So that's how you do that. And that's for all the stuff in here. You can do that with. Insert point. Oh, okay. Well, we can see what insert point does. It allows you to put a point in the middle here. See that? So if I want to add like a circle here, let me see if I can do it. If I want to extrude maybe, let's see. Nah. Q mesh maybe? Let's see. Nope. All right, so maybe that's not even the right option to use for it. We could probably do this though. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I don't know. I don't really use that, but it makes a point in the middle here. It could definitely be useful if I knew how to do it. I'll have to look into it. I think if you do an inset or something on it, it might work. Insert poly loops. So you can see what insert poly loops does. It inserts poly loops. When you hover on a face and you just drag up and down. Drag up, drag down. Drag up, drag down. And remember, you can always go off of this just to see what you're creating. I mean, it didn't do much because it's flat. But that's what that does. Inset is useful. Inset allows you to put, what do you call it? You see that? It allows you to put the geometry there like that. Oops, if you click off your brush on accident, yeah, just be mindful of that because that can happen sometimes. That's kind of what I was trying to do before. I was just trying to make like these little holes. Like if there was like little holes. So that's what I was trying to do before. Then what you can do, make your thing smaller, like your brush size smaller, hold Alt. You should be able to hover over these. There we go. Kind of had to do the reverse there because it's so small. So you could do something like that, right? And then could probably Q mesh this. Oops. I'm on the wrong option on Q mesh today. You might have to zoom in too to see what you're doing if it's giving you an issue. Q mesh edge, Q mesh poly. Looks like I'm actually, here's a single poly. I think extrude was what we wanted to do though. That's weird. All right, there we go. See, we can kind of extrude inwards. See what it did there. polygroup, mask. That's just the mask and area. Mesh to brush. This adds your mesh to a brush so that you can use it as an insert brush. I believe move just moves any of the areas that that you want it to move. And you can see though, even if we're out of this mode, we can kind of start moving stuff, around here. What is it moving? It's moving a single polygon. So you can see how that works. That's move. Then we got polygroup. And that should just be what it says, which is makes a polygroup out of certain areas. And then you could move stuff by polygroup. Flatten polygroup, I believe. So you can polygroup certain areas and then move them or extrude them. That's pretty much how it works. You have a Q mesh. The Q mesh was already selected by default, which pulls these guys out or in, whatever you want to do. All right, so that's the Q mesh. You can get some cool results, pretty fast, just like messing around with this thing. You'll find that, you'll be like, whoa. And this could be a good starting point. This doesn't have to be the ends all to everything here. This could literally just be your starting point. And then you could further refine it afterwards. So the Q mesh is a pretty cool brush. Cool brush. Cool brush inside of ZBrush. Oh, I kind of like that. I had a cool little whoop going on. All right, so we get something like this. You go back and scale is another one. And I mean, some of these things do exactly what you would think. Scale it up or down. Scale things up or down, Scale's kind of cool. Kind of cool. All right, so that's scale. Let's see what's next here. Slide is the next option. Slide, we gotta kind of turn this on. See what's going on. Oh, you know what? I'm still in scale. Hold on. Slide was not the next option. I was in the wrong thing. Sphereize is the next option. That just basically just tries to make everything circular. So it just makes it circular. Okay. So that's what that is. Alright. Alright, next one. Make sure you hover it over and click spacebar. Spin. So spin, I think just spins the edges, which I'm not going to do, but I mean, I'll do it one time. Or no, it doesn't. I am wrong. Spin actually pulls up and pulls down to try to spin it around. Okay, so let's see where we could use this at. Oh, cool. We can kind of shape this out a little bit. Spin's kind of cool. I like it. I like spin. Get some nice shapes going on here. Thanks to Mr. Spin. I'd probably flatten this part out because there's just too much going on here. Yeah, I'd probably flatten that out. I'll clean this up, flatten it out. Let's see what's next here. Spin edges. I think spin edges is what it says, which is spin edges. Split. What is split? Let's see. Split just splits it down the middle. So it'll take it in the middle and split it. So if you need more geometry over here, split it. Split. Split it. Split it. See, it's getting a little harder now. Split. Oh, that's cool. Sweet. Alright. So that's split. Hover and split. That's it. Okay, next is transpose. Okay. So that's if you want to move a certain area up and down manually, you can transpose it. So you can actually use your gizmo to move things around, which is cool. I think what I might try to do is pull this down. Kind of pull it back. Maybe add some more geometry in here. We could do a split in here. Okay. I want to split that. And I mean, you could just go to town on this thing and create something. Now, remind you, I'm not really creating anything in particular. I'm just showing how to use it, kind of. Kind of, sort of. Split is done. Transpose is done. Unweld. So if you unweld an edge, or if you unweld something, it'll make it its own thing. That makes sense. Like it unwelds it from the other thing, and now it's a separate piece of geometry, I believe, when you unweld it. And if it is separate, we should be able to move it. I don't know if it's separate like that. But it does do something. It unwelds it from the other piece of it unwelds it from the other piece or something. But it looks like it doesn't like unattach it though. Could be wrong. Okay, let's see. We're at zmodeler modifiers. Am I in the right one? Nope. Sorry, let's go back. Zmodeler modifiers. I think that Zmodeler modifiers. I think you had to go in this in order to use that. I don't know. Not sure how to use the Zmodeler modifiers. But I feel like I should learn. This is awesome. This is so much fun. I have no clue what I'm creating, but I'm having fun. That's what it's all about, right? Zmodeler modifiers face mode. Yeah, I'm not sure what that does. We'll have to look into it a little later on. Let's go to the next one now. If we go to edges, we get different options. So we have a line. So this click point. I think you got to click to align things. You're supposed to be able to line edges together, basically. Not sure how that one works. Bevel, so you can bevel an edge. And you can see what happens when you bevel an edge. It's adding the geometry, but it's not pushing it up on the surface. So it's kind of adding like a loop. See right here, this is a loop. So when we do a bevel, it's following that. It's following those edges, basically. I didn't tell it to follow that. Yeah, you did when you drew the geometry out. Bridge. It's supposed to allow you to like bridge 2 points together or something. I think it worked. Yeah. It's trying to bridge the geometry together. It's making a mess. It's making a mess. Let's go close. Close hole. Well, there's no hole to close, but this would close a hole if you had a hole. But we don't. Let me see what's next here. Oh, excuse me. All right. Collapse. So collapse will collapse edges into each other. See, like if I click this edge, it's going to collapse and get rid of it. So if you have more geometry than you need, you could just click an edge to collapse it. You know. So maybe a good area for the collapse would be maybe this area here. Oops, I don't. Collapse. So what does collapse do? It just takes away those areas. Remember I was saying there was too much going on in that area, so we're getting rid of some geometry in that area. But if we collapse too much, you can see we're going to lose the shape of stuff. So we'll just keep it like that. So collapsing can be useful as well. Definitely. All right, so that's how you collapse an edge. Crease. All right, so if we want to add a crease, like right here. I don't want to add a crease there, maybe right. This just creases one edge, but if you want to crease the whole edge loop, you got to choose edge loop complete. Now I can crease the whole edge loop. Which is going to make that a harder surface. See that? That's the edge loop complete. Poly loop does this, polys, I believe. But, or no, poly, I think it follows something. I usually use edge and edge loop complete. That should get you where you need to go with that. Spacebar, hold spacebar. Delete. You already know what that does. It deletes edges. Do nothing doesn't do anything. I don't know what that means. Extrude. So if we I can't say extrude an edge. Right. That's what it does. It extrudes it outwards. So maybe have some random pattern like that on there. Insert. And you already know what insert does. Just insert something. It will insert the object where the edge is. It usually does. And I don't even think that it clicked it properly. Let me see something. Let me see something real quick, because this was kind of looking cool. Kind of make this hard surface go on here. Got to make sure you're on that edge. If you turn dynamic off, you can really see where the edges are. So, oops. So if you're too high or something like that, then you can always turn dynamic off. I'm just going to keep it on for now. Looks like it's adding an edge loop. Hold on. So it's inserting an edge loop actually. Inset. You can see what inset does. Mask, you already know what mask will do. It'll just mask the edge area. Move, you know what move will do. So you can actually move an edge and, you know, basically reshape it. Just make sure you're on the edge and not the poly. Got to be at the end. You know, so that's how that will work. Let's move along. We just did edge, right? So let's see. Or we did move for the edge. Move auto radius. Okay. All right, so that's like moving a lot at the same time. Okay, so that's what that does. Like I said, this is mostly used for hard surface. I think what we'll do in a future episode, we're going to do like a Gundam head, because Gundams are awesome. And we'll just model out a whole Gundam head and using this method and see how far we can get. Move brush radius. So this will move depending on how big your brush is, maybe on the edge. I don't know. There's actually other options too. Look, it says shift slide to inflate. Move infinite radius. Okay. Like there is a lot of options in here. I'm not even gonna lie to you. This just polygroups edges. QMesh, you already know what QMesh does. We were already doing it. Scale. I mean, it does the same thing, but it just does it for the edges instead. Scales it inwards or outwards. This slides up and down. There's a spin. We kind of already used the spin, which kind of spins it around. Split. If we click and we do a split, it splits it in the middle here. Stitch. I think stitch just stitches one edge to another. Click start edge, and then click an opposite edge. Let's try it on. Let's try it on here. Click edge and click. So many things I've never used. Let's try swivel though. This just tries to swivel it outwards. Okay, transpose. We already know what transpose does. It masks the area and allows us to move it inwards or outwards. Good for the quick selections. Get some nice results this way. Okay. And then there's unweld. And that unwelds this piece in the middle, so it's so you can pull it out, basically. All right, so that's all the options with that. The vertex mode. There's a QMesh option for vertex. Let's see how that works. All right, so that's how that works for QMesh and for vertex. You just pull in the dots and you can make something happen here. See? All right, and let's see. Then there's slide. So that kind of slides it inwards and outwards. All right. Probably the most useful would be move. To move the vertexes that are red, to move them one by one into place. But, it allows you to fine tune things. Just make sure you hovered on the right thing, because if you're not, it's not going to work. Make sure you're selecting a vertex, which is this point. It's a vertex. The dot. The little dot. Okay. Slide went through split. I'll show you how split works. It just splits a point. It just splits the point like that. A little messy. Maybe on the back might be easier to show you what it does. We made a big mess. You can see what it does though. It just splits a point. See that? Okay, so that's that. Let's see. Let's move along. Stitch, I think, just stitches a point to another point. Yeah. So stitch allows you to stitch a point to another point. So if I click here and click here, it stitches it. Click, click. Okay. That's what stitching does. Transpose, we already know what that does because we did it before. All right, so that's all. That's pretty much like all the options that you would need to make something hard surface in ZBrush. In that menu at least. Okay. The next thing we want to look at is the modifiers. So we got bend arc. The unmasked part does not fit the currently set symmetry. Please turn off symmetry or update the masking to include symmetrical parts. All right, let's just try this again. I think I might have to put it in the center, maybe. Take off symmetry and then try. Mask center, reset the orientation. Now let's try it. Now it's in the middle. See, now that it's in the middle, we can use this. So what I did was I went to the move and I clicked that little settings thing. And then here, there's something called a bend arc. And there's points that you can grab and manipulate. You see here? And this can get you some really cool stuff going on. So I'll just kind of bend this out like this. And it's getting a little distorted, maybe not. So you gotta grab like this little cone thing. The green one. See the green one that actually does it. So the green one. So grab the green one. And the green one does it in the other axis too. So see, you can pull it up and pull it down. And this could be cool to get something like 3D going on. And that rotates it, I guess. 1, 2. This cone, I don't know what it does. The green one, though. That's what you want. All right, so that is the bend. To get out of it, there's a little orange gearbox here. So if you click it, you can accept this. So if I want to accept these changes, I can click accept. And now my model is just like that. So now if I want, I can go back and I could do a bend curve. And I honestly never know what cone to use. I usually just pull all these different cones, trying to figure out what to do. All right, well, this one says bend. Oh, that's cool. So that kind of does like a twist. Then we got one at the bottom that does different stuff. So, you know, you can really manipulate this. I'm just gonna go back to what we had here. You can really manipulate it with these deformers. And let me show you how I get here again. So usually we get this move, scale, rotate tool, and we have these things up here. We press this gear icon and we get a whole list of stuff, as if there isn't enough to mess with. So yeah, so go in here and mess with these bevels. I think bevel bevels everything. Yeah, so that kind of bevels everything, which is crazy. We're gonna look deeper into these because I haven't really used the deformers too much. But I want to let you know that they are there. But we're definitely going to cover them a little better when I digest this a little better. Crease, you know, it's adding a crease on like everything though. So that's definitely not the way you would use it. But what does this do? I don't even know. I don't even know what I'm in anymore. I'm back in the bend curve somehow. Probably because I hit Control Z. We got deformer. So deformer is similar to like in 3ds Max. There's this thing called a 4x4x4 deformer, and you would basically select points and move those points out or inwards. These are like control points, so I can hold control and, you know, just choose these points to move outwards or inwards or whatever. And this lets you add as many as you want. See that? And you highlight them and you move them. Get a whole control. You can use the scale. Is it the scale? Yeah. How do I clear the points? I think you just click to clear the points. So hold control, highlight the points you want to move. There you go. And then just move it with the scale. Which is that red square right there? That's the scale. Then I'll click off to get rid of it. And I'll hold control and I'll grab these points. And see if I can do the same. So you can get some pretty cool results this way as well. And then when you're done, you got to click accept. If you don't click accept, it's not going to save the changes that you make. So click accept. Make sure you click it. Deformer hard. I think it just makes hard changes, to be honest with you. So and if we hit the blue, you see what it did? It kind of snapped to that part. You get something pretty complex pretty fast, though. You know, in ZBrush, we can get pretty complex pretty fast. Lots of fun. Let's look at deformer soft. Well, deformer soft is like the same thing. It just makes a soft deformation instead of a hard one. Extender. Let's see what it does. It extends the mesh. See that? It adds another level inside there where you can add an extension. Let's see here. And again, I got to figure out how to use these things like in-depth. Pretty cool. It's extending where the line is. See, this is where the line is, so that's where it's going to extend from. So yeah, you can really get some cool stuff going on with this. Okay. So that's like the extender. You can hit accept when you want to select changes. Go back to your gear. And let's go to flatten. So flatten is exactly what you think it is. It will flatten an area. Oops. See what it did there? Like it totally flattened out that part. See? So if you want to flatten edges, I guess, you know, oops, you can do that. You know, you can flatten it out. Yeah, I don't even know how you do it on both sides. It's so weird. But yeah. Yeah. See, this one does it on both sides. Man, it's kind of looking cool. So yeah, you can really come up with something fast. It's so cool. These deformers are game changers, you know. They really are. They're game changers. Hit accept when you want to select, you know, accept the change. Next one's inflate. You already know what inflate does, but I'll show you. It inflates it. All right. Multi-slice. Multi-pass. No, not multi-pass. Multi-slice. So you can see what multi-slice is doing. It's adding slices everywhere on our mesh. See that? That's what multi-slice does. Offset. No, not from Migos, but a different offset. Let's see here. Something I don't use. So offset does what you think it does. It kind of just moves it offset, off center. Project primitive. Holy snow cone, Batman. All right, let's get serious, guys. What we're doing here. Project primitive. If you hover over these things, it'll tell you what it does, though, for the most part. Like this says it's going to tessellate it. So it just tessellated the top there. This will apply grouping. This one will do maximum displacement, opacity. So it literally tells you what it's going to do. Primitive type. Radial symmetry. Sure, why not? Blend. There's just like a bunch of options in here. Bunch of options in here. I kind of like that. I'll just keep that. Then we'll just get out of there, hit accept. And we could just keep adding these on top of each other. The thing with Max is it's more non-destructive, because you put them in a modifier stack. And I always say Max because I'm a modeler in 3ds Max, but you can use it in here. And once you hit accept, that's it. Once you hit accept, bye-bye. That's it. Remesh by Dynamesh. So remesh by Dynamesh is going to remesh this by Dynameshing it. See that? It's like really dense now. It's like Dynameshed. I'm not going to mess with it though. Remesh by union. It's saying the boolean can't be performed. This is some boolean operation. I'm not going to do it on this. I don't think it's going to work for me. Remesh by union. All right. I think it just kind of brings things together, but it's making a big mess. Remesh by Z-remesher. We know what a Z-remesher is. But I'm remeshing like a Boolean operations, like when you're cutting into something or you're adding it together. Like if you have multiple stuff and you try to add it together, you could remesh it and then dynamesh it, or something like that. So that's kind of like what's going on with these things here. And then we have remesh by decimation, which is like Decimation Master. Then we have rotate, scale, skew. So rotate. And rotates it, of course. Certain ones of these I wouldn't really use in here, but scale just makes it bigger and smaller. I'm pretty sure. I don't know why. Yeah, so that kind of scales it in and out. All right, I guess this could be useful. All right, let's go to the next one. Where were we at? Skew. Well, a skew is like when you put it like in perspective and like warp it away. Oh man, it's like subdividing and doing all this crazy stuff. So you see what skew's doing? It's kind of pulling the one edge down. That could be handy for something. There's always the right tool for the job, you know what I mean? So just got to mess around. Slice. Oh, slice just slices into the geometry, I'm pretty sure. Like cuts into it. I don't even know why there's an N flat button here. Here's the slice width. Apply creasing. Okay. Oops. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Plus our mesh is probably a little dense to be able to do it anyway. Smooth, you know what that does? It smooths it out. Smooth all smooths everything. Stretch. Just kind of skip around here. Stretch. Let's try out stretch and see what this does. Okay. This makes it bigger and smaller. Stretch. Subdivide will subdivide the model, but we're not going to do that. Taper. Taper, it could be useful for us if we want to give this a taper. What a taper does, it makes one side bigger and smaller, like tapers it. See what I mean? Like it's trying to do it right here. So we could probably like really go crazy with this. Oh, that's cool. I kind of like that. Let me see. And the taper stops where the box is. Like it's everything's surrounded by this box. I'm not even sure how to manipulate it. So that's taper. And last we have twist. And you can probably guess what twist does. But yeah, it twists. And plus, remember, there's a deformation palette too, and we can do some of these things in the deformation palette as well. But it's nice to be able to quickly get to it through here as well. So it's pretty cool. We can also quickly choose a shape. See, I can choose like a cylinder real quick if I wanted to. Does it get rid of my other shape? Also, can you see what's happening here? Just got kind of like a perfect circle. Now I just changed the shape altogether. So it's pretty powerful messing with these primitives in here as well. Let me just go back to my shape. I don't know what happened to my shape. Alright, so that's that. I'm calling it a ship now, all of a sudden. Let's duplicate it though, right? And let's just go back in there for some more fun. So we have a cone shape. Okay. And then if we kind of just go in this mode, we hit the green. It even says like it's going to divide it. So we know if we do this, it's going to divide. Because when we hover over, it tells us. Then there's an H divide, which is a horizontal divide. And you kind of just drag around like up and down and all these things. And you can make all sorts of shapes. Okay. And when you're done, you just go out of here. And to the shape you just made, you can apply like a bend to it. Or a twist. Where is the bend? Am I on twist? I must be on twist. I must be on twist. So weird. Or bend curve. Maybe that might give us better results. Let's choose something else. There's a polycube. But you can see this could be a good starting point for you, depending on what you're creating. This could really be a good starting point. You have a lot of control with these tools that we didn't have before. And you can see kind of just turn it into anything you want really fast. Let's do a bevel. Bevels are very useful because it catches the light on the object. Oh, I don't know what it's doing. It's trying to divide it. Okay. See, now this has a bevel to it. See that? Multi-slice. Now, I do not know how this one works. Oh, there we go. See that? Just added all these slices in there. See? Want to up the resolution, it adds more slices. So that's how that works. And then you can add creasing to it by this one here. Okay. Right. So that I understand that. So yeah, you have all these different shapes in here. Nothing crazy. If we hit accept, we can accept these changes though. And you could see that I have this here, right? So if I highlight this and then I just scale it outwards, you know, you might be able to get some cool effect going. See that? So with a combination of like all these tools, you can basically create, you know, anything you could think of for the most part. Which is awesome. You can also boolean pieces. So we'll give it a try. It's been a while since I did the boolean thing, but we're going to give it a try today. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to have this piece go take a piece out of the other piece. So what you want to do is, this is important, whatever's selected here, I want to cut into this piece. So I want to cut out this piece. I think this one is the cut. And then you press this down arrow, and this is where the start is. See, there's like a little arrow here. Now it says start. So that means like the boolean's going to start here. It's going to end with this. So if we go to boolean, we're not going to get any options. Hold on, let me see why. Is my mesh too thick? Let's see. Let me see what the criteria is for this. Oh, it actually tells you too. Look, union, subtract, and intersect. So that was what I was trying to show you before. But let's see. When make boolean mesh is pressed, all visible subtools with either union, subtract, or intersect boolean option will be converted into geometry. A new tool will be generated containing the new subtools. Pressing the down arrow on an icon, which I showed you guys, subtool at the starting mesh, the down arrow icon will be updated to a start subtool. So I'm not able to do it for some reason, right? So we got to figure that out first. I think why is because I have to dynamesh this. I think I have to dynamesh these two pieces, probably. And let's see. Either dynamesh or zremesh or something. But let me try to dynamesh this piece and dynamesh this piece. So I just dynamesh these two pieces now. Can I do make boolean mesh now? No? Okay. It's interesting. Well, we want to make this one the Boolean mesh. And I click start, but it's not starting. Okay, let's try, let's do this. Since we did so much craziness, let's just go and open a new file. And honestly, it might be something I'm doing. It's like it's not visible. Do we need, I wonder if we need to add subdivision levels to do it. Hold on. What if we kind of add subdivision to this and then duplicate it? Wow, not sure why it's not working. Well, what we could do is we could just try to look it up real quick. So, make Boolean. I don't know why it's not letting me select it. It's kind of irking me. Oh, I know why now. There's a live Boolean option, I think, that you have to turn on first. So where's my live Boolean? Sorry guys, I'm just trying to figure this out. Because this is pretty awesome. We can get it working. Let me just double check real quick. It says the live Boolean is found in render. There used to be a live Boolean button in the other versions of ZBrush. And maybe they moved it. There's render Booleans. There we go. Man, I can't believe they hit it like that. That's horrible. But all right, so you click live Boolean. Now we can choose make Boolean mesh. Can you believe it? Okay, we're back in action here. Sorry, guys. You know, as things change with all these different versions, you know, it happens. But yeah, so we're gonna make a cut. We're gonna cut out of this shape. Oops. All right, so subtract is this one. So this is subtract. We want to take this mesh and we want to subtract this piece from it, right? And you can see, like, now that we have live Boolean on, we can see a live version of what will happen, you know, if we were to Boolean this piece out of the other piece. So I can go ahead and make this bigger or smaller. Okay. Sorry, but that's exactly what I was trying to do before. All right, so let's just say we want to Boolean out this piece like this. Plus, you can add another piece on top of that and then choose something for that one. Like, you don't have to just add one piece. You can add more than one piece. Right, so you have two cuts now. Maybe maybe we want to make it really small and cut into it. And if you turn on the transparency mode, you can see the pieces that you're trying to work with. So as you can see, I can cut right through this hole. I can cut a hole right through this piece with the live boolean. Okay. So why doesn't it show it anymore? I don't know. Nothing but problems today, man. I'm telling you. All right, we'll go back up. Okay, here we go. So once you have what you like, right? Let's say I want to save this. What you do is you got to go down to here to Boolean and click Make Boolean Mesh. So remember, you have to turn on Live Boolean first in the render. In ZBrush 2018, it's hidden now in the render. It used to be right here, but I mean, you could just make a shortcut for it though. You should make a shortcut for it. Render Booleans, Live Boolean. Turn it on first. All right, click this as your starter option, and then choose what kind of what kind of thing you want to happen with this. Let's add one more shape just to show the other stuff that it can do. So I'm going to take this shape here that I just made, right? And I'm going to put it above here, right? And and I'm going to do it, what do you call it? A merge. So the first one's a union, so it's going to make this piece part of the other piece. Then we also have an intersection. So anything it intersects, you can see what's happening with that. See what happened? So anything it intersects, it's going to affect. And just turn your mesh preview on too to see, or the transparency thing to see exactly what this is going to do. All right. So let's just say we like this, right? So we used all three methods. Now what you have to do is you got to click Make Boolean Mesh. So I'm going to click that. You could also allow dynamic subdivision, but I'll just click Make Boolean Mesh for now. And what it does is it makes a new Boolean mesh right here. So if I click this, this is all one object now. It's one whole piece of geometry. All right, and then if we subdivide it, we could subdivide and we can start sculpting on this just like we normally would. So that's how live boolean works. I'll go through it one more time just so you guys can see. Let's do like more complex objects. I wonder if we can do what we were doing before. I probably totally lost that file, didn't I? I didn't save it, so I didn't save the ship. I don't think I saved it. Not even worried about it. Do you want to save the changes? No. Why do I keep choosing no? So yeah, this is just a quick way to get some good shapes going on, with the live boolean on. You can see I have, remember, live boolean's on, but you have to click that start. If you don't click that start thing, then it's not going to do it. And then you got to click what you want. Do you want to merge it? Do you want to subtract from it? Or do you want to intersect it? Okay. So we can just kind of, and this is all real time. Like this won't even be, nothing will happen with this until we actually say, all right, that's it. Until we put our foot down and just hit that Make Boolean Mesh button. And we can keep messing with this. Like we can keep changing it, you know. So if I want, I can come in here and like with some maybe some clip brushes, which I didn't teach you guys yet. But if you hold Control and Shift, you can select clip brushes to slice with. So maybe we'll try the trim brush. Maybe it's the trim curve. Oops. Actually, that probably just makes a little curve. Yeah, that's not what I want. Hold on. Maybe it's the trim lasso. So trim lasso cuts into your geometry. It only cuts on like on the one side. Oops. I'll hold Control and Shift, and I'm just kind of drawing, and I'm cutting into my geometry. See that? Then if we go out of transparency mode, and this is the kind of cut we're getting, and we could actually rotate that. Oops. We can kind of rotate that and see what it's looking like. See if it's something that we like or not. To get something a little complex. Okay. Then we get a little bit more of a complex shape. See that? Let's append a different object. Let's append this spiral. That should give us something cool. This spiral here. And let's just duplicate it a few times. Maybe drag that off to the edge. And then you could see, you know, like I said, it's all real time though. It's pretty awesome. So it gives us an interesting effect, right? But again, I mean, this is just another way. You know, this is just another way for us to make a complex shape in ZBrush. It's the live boolean mesh. All that's happening is that this is just kind of button up against it, and it's just making that shape. Kind of a waste, right, of a sphere or of a spring. But oh well. Doesn't matter. Let me see here. See that? Look at that. You get some cool stuff going on, like some happy accidents. Oh, that could add to our shape that we already have. That looks complex. What happens if I yeah, or we can just get a shape like that. We can subtract from that shape. So you can do whatever you got to do just to get the shape that you want. Now if we make this bigger. I'm hoping that this really hits home on the power of this. especially like if you're only concepting, like you can make some really complex stuff really fast. Be done in no time. You can duplicate that again, and probably do what is it, union maybe? What? Rotate it. I can't rotate it 90 degrees. Let me see. It's like on its side or something. Not sure why it came in like that, but all this is making that, you know, these shapes or whatever. So see, and then you can just move it wherever you want. And get some cuts going on. Okay. And like I said, and then finally, again, when you're done, you just click make boolean mesh, and it's going to run through everything, and it's going to do whatever you want it to do in that order. I said something complex, but this was kind of like, yeah. But you get the idea. I mean, you can make a complex object in order to boolean out of another complex object. Things could get interesting. So yeah, we pretty much covered most of the things in ZBrush. The other thing is there's a see-through mode, which if you have reference, you can go ahead and use see-through mode, and then like when you start sculpting, you know, or when you're not sculpting, when you drag down, you could see your model, and then when you drag up and you're sculpting, you could see it. So you could use like Photoshop in the background or something and be able to work on your model, which is pretty cool. That's the see-through mode. So if you put that to, 100, you see your desktop. 0, you don't see your desktop. Pretty cool stuff. And I think that's going to do it for this lesson here. And that's pretty much the end of the ZBrush beginner course at this point. We covered a lot. I mean, the main thing that you want to know is that there's more than one tool that can do the same job. Pick the tool that works best for you, and just get to creating. No matter what you're using, just play around with everything. I encourage you to touch everything, play around with everything, and figure out how to use it. There are some things we haven't touched on, but I will touch on them in future videos because they belong in a video by itself. They're pretty awesome stuff. All right, and yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great night. Thanks.